everyone, my name is Kristen Bayleys and I am co-founder of Bake Eat Love, a monthly subscription box where we send you all the ingredients that you need, dry ingredients, pre-measured, ready to go so that you can make a delicious treat each month. So today I am super excited to show you all how to make a macaronage. If you're wondering what in the world is a macaronage, that's okay. I don't think you're alone in that at all. But basically what it is a fancy French term for the technique that you use when making macarons to mix the dry ingredients, which we have here, into the wet ingredients, which we have here. And so it's kind of a fancy folding technique. It's a little bit different probably than what you have done in the past. And why are we learning this? It's because the dessert that we have planned for April of this month is macarons, which are so delicious. I'm super excited. They're gonna be raspberry and orange macarons. And if you've never made macarons before, or if you have made them before but it didn't turn out so great, I have some really exciting news for you. We are running a promotion called Macaron Madness, and you know, because it's March Madness, and so you can actually win a Bake Eat Love macaron baking kit by taking 2 easy steps. The first is to follow us on Instagram at bake.eat.love.box, and then the second is to post a picture of your macarons. And when I say your macarons, it doesn't have to be macarons that you have personally made. It could be macarons that you've eaten and you really enjoyed, macarons from your favorite bakery, or hey, it could be you don't have any pictures of macarons. You can go ahead and take a picture online and just show that there. But post it to hashtag WinABellBox. That's hashtag WINABELBOX, and you will be entered into the contest. So we'll be announcing one winner on Thursday and the next winner on this following Tuesday. Okay, so let's get back to the reason for us going live today. For those who just joined, we are going to learn how to make a macaronage, aka how to fold your macarons. So the first thing you need to start with is egg whites, like these. And you can see that they are made into a meringue. It's light, it's bouncy, you can kind of see it moving around in there. And they have been whipped into stiff peaks. So we can see that they are stiff peaks by taking a spatula like this one, and voila, you see that nice stiff peak there? You have achieved a stiff peak. So the way that we do this for Bellbox is we mix egg whites, room temperature, with sugar and cream of tartar, and that gets whipped into this delicious, delightful meringue of stiff peaks. I wouldn't actually eat just this plain, personally, but it will be delicious once you mix it into your macarons. Okay, so we won't go into all of the details on how to make stiff peaks. We have a different video for that on YouTube, but just know that you're gonna need it to be like this, and it's gonna be nice and bouncy, and it'll also have this great shine to it. And then the other thing I wanted to say really quickly before we get started is, in general, making macarons reminds me a little bit of the Three Bears story. And when I first started making macarons, I was like, why does everybody feel like they have to add their own rules to making these? Well, it's because macarons kind of amplify everything that we know and love about baking, all of those variables that we have, like how hot your oven is, how much you stirred them, the liquid to dry ratio, and they amplify that just so much. So there are a lot of rules with making macarons, but it reminds me of the Three Bears story because you don't want to mix not enough, because if you mix not enough, then you'll end up with a drier, stiffer macaronage, and that's gonna give you macarons that end up rising too high, and they may even have like a little bump on top from where you piped them. And then on the other side, you don't want to mix them too much, because if you do fold too many times, that will actually thin out your batter, and you'll start piping your cookies and they'll turn into runny pancakes, which nobody wants that either. So what we're going to be looking at today is how do you get that just right? And yes, there are some rules involved. I know myself, I'm not crazy about rules, but in this case, I am. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. For those who just joined, we're learning how to make a macaronage, how to fold the dry and wet ingredients for making macarons. Okay, so something that's really important to note is to make sure when you are making macarons to just clear your schedule for at least 45 minutes so you have time to whip up your egg whites and to do this macaronage technique. The reason why timing is so important is because you don't want anything to dry out. So if it does dry out, that kind of messes up your liquid to dry ratio, and it can have a lot of problems going on. Okay, and the other thing is if you use a stand mixer like this one, usually they have a little bump at the bottom, and the way that we're going to be folding this, that bump can actually cause a lot of problems in your folding technique because you really want to scoop down below. So I always transfer mine into a different bowl that has a nice flat bottom like this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Make sure you get all of the egg whites in there. Again, can't stress this enough. Liquid to dry ratio is incredibly important. Okay. And then you're going to take your dry ingredients. So with Bake It Love, we give you a sifter. Yes, the ingredients have already been pre-sifted, but it is a good idea to sift multiple times for macarons. Some people say twice, some people say 3 times. So for us, we give you pre-sifted, but then we'll give you a sifter inside of your box so you can mix it again. So the next thing you'll do is you'll take your dry ingredients, and I like to add 1/3 at a time. So it doesn't have to be like perfectly 1/3, just kind of estimate, do your best guess. All right, so we'll call that 1/3. And then we're gonna get to the actual technique of stirring. So one thing is very important is to make sure that you count your strokes, which I always thought that people were absolute bonkers when I heard you had to count how many strokes you're doing when you make macarons, but trial and error, I found that you absolutely do. So we're gonna go ahead and count our strokes, and we're also going to work on our technique, which is taking the spatula, or it could be a sturdy spoon if you don't have a spatula, but make sure it is a sturdy spatula. If you are using a spatula, you don't want anything flopping around too much in there. But you're gonna take the spatula or spoon and stir it along the outside of the bowl. Power notification on my phone, so we're gonna try to get through as much of this as we can without my phone dying. So anyways, we're gonna go stir around the outside and then cut through the middle. And then you'll stir around the outside again and cut through a different part of the middle. So some people like to spin the bowl a little bit, that's stroke 3. Other people like to just move their hands around and cut through different places, whatever works for you. And we're gonna do about 10 strokes at first. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9, make sure you get all the way to the bottom, and 10. Okay, so if you just joined us, we've done 10 strokes with our macaronage, and we have incorporated about 1/3 of the dry ingredients into the liquid. We're gonna go ahead and add the next third. So if you're a beginner and you're making your macaronage, it may take you up to 13 strokes for each time you add 1/3. Totally fine. We will get to the point where we look at like what it needs to look like when you're done. So don't worry about that at all. So we did 10 strokes. We're gonna do about another 10 to 13 more. So here's 1, and actually we should start at 11 so we don't lose count. 2, 3, and make sure that you're kind of going up the walls as you come back up to 4, 5, 6, 7, and cut through. There's 8, 9, and 10. So you want it to just be kind of barely mixed, and then you can mix in the last third. Okay. All right, so we'll do another 10 to 30, 26, 29, and there's 30. So this is still looking a little bit dry to me. I still see some of the dry ingredients themselves. So I'm gonna give it another good 3 strokes. Here's 31, 32, and 33. All right, so with the Bake Eat Love box, you are going to have raspberry and orange that you're gonna be making. So you're actually gonna take your macaronage and split it in half. So we'll do that today, but we're only gonna look at making raspberry because it would be very redundant if we also looked at making orange. So go ahead and scoop some in. For those who just joined, we are gonna be looking at how to make a perfect macaronage. And if you just joined and you're like, hey, there's already batter, don't worry. You haven't missed out on a ton. There's a lot that we are going to continue to cover, and you'll get to see what your macaronage should look like when it is done. Okay, so now we are going to add a little bit more liquid. So if you are not doing something with Bake Eat Love and you are just making macarons on your own, phenomenal. Some word to the wise is you should only use as much flavoring as you need, but it should not be more than a teaspoon. So we use 3/4 of a teaspoon of raspberry extract and then 3 drops of dye. So 1, 2, and 3. The reason why you don't want to add too much extra liquid is because that will throw off your liquid to dry ratio. So 37, you got to count your strokes, 38, 39, 40. And the thing I love about adding food coloring is you get to see for yourself how effective your strokes are. You can tell like, hey, like I'm noticing that when I mix to the left, things get really well incorporated, but when I pull up from underneath, there's a lot of white down there. So you can kind of take lessons from yourself as you go and better improve your macaronage technique. So 41, 42, and again, you want to scrape all around those outside walls and through the middle, 43, 44, 45, 46, and it can also be a good idea to give your spatula a good chance to clean itself. So get everything off of that spatula and then get back to mixing. 46. Okay, that's 50 strokes. We're gonna actually keep going until we hit, well, we'll get to 55. And then I'll show you guys what you don't want your macaronage to look like. Okay, so here's what we don't want our macaronage to look like. We don't want it to be like too clumpy like this. Notice how it's kind of falling off like clumps. We want it to really flow more like magma. You want it to be lava. And then when you drop it back into your bowl, you want to be able to actually do a full-blown figure 8 with the batter without it breaking like that. So we've done 55 strokes. Let's keep going. Okay, so that is 60. Again, do a few strokes, check your batter. Mine is very rarely done at 60 or even 65 strokes. I'm kind of petite, as you can tell, and probably could spend a little bit more time working on my upper body strength, but I'm sure many of you guys out there are doing your arm exercises and can get there by 60, 65 strokes. So we'll go ahead and check and it is still not possible to make that figure 8. We're still seeing it kind of clumpy when it falls off, so we've got some more work to do. Okay, 5 more strokes and we'll check it again. Still a little bit more clumpy than I would like for it to be. So now we're gonna move into what I like to do for my last few strokes, which is actually like kind of pressing the batter against the bottom and then scraping through. And the reason why I do this is like bubbles are, well, okay, so macarons have a lot of enemies, but air bubbles is definitely one of the top enemies. And in my stroking technique, I create a lot of bubbles. So this helps me personally to get some of those bubbles out. If you feel like you were like really aggressive with your batter, you probably don't need to do this. But again, I am petite and not very strong in the arms, biceps, triceps area. So this is a good thing for me to be able to do. Okay, so if you are better endowed in arm muscles and you feel like you did whip it really well, then that probably got some of the air bubbles out and you don't need to do that. Okay, so now we are getting places. You can see it's a little bit more consistent when it falls, and we may be there. Let's try. Okay, so we're gonna try to make, hopefully you guys can all see this, a nice figure 8, which we pretty much did. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna give it like another 2 strokes just because that figure 8 wasn't quite everything I had ever hoped and dreamed it would be. But we are pretty much there. So make sure you get a nice big glop of it as you scoop it up so you have plenty to complete your figure 8. There you go. All right, so as I said in the beginning, don't want to let your macarons sit, so I'm going to go ahead and put these into piping bags, which we're not going to show today. We really wanted to just focus on the macaronage technique. But again, just to reiterate, I'm Kristen, co-founder of Bake Eat Love, and we have an awesome contest going on right now where you can win a macaron baking kit. You may call them macarons, you may call them macaroons, but they're those little cute French pastries that are sandwiches that are notoriously challenging to make, but with the baking kit, we try to make it as easy as possible for you to achieve success with these. So if you've ever thought about making macarons or you've made them before and it wasn't the huge success you had hoped for, please check out this contest. It is very easy. There's 2 steps. One is follow us on Instagram at bake.eat.love.box. And the second is to post a picture of your macarons you made, macarons somebody else made, macarons you wish you could have eaten, your favorite macarons from Paris pre-COVID, whatever they may be, post them to hashtag #WinABellBox, hashtag WINABELBOX, and we will be announcing winners later this week as well as next week. So thank you all so much for joining me. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I'm done making these macarons. All right, I hope you all have a great day. Bye.